Welcome to
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose is a podcast of inspiring people whose stories help you see things differently, live with intentionality, elevate the way you participate in the world, and take the necessary leaps in your life to seek and find your passions. Come with us and develop the courage to wholeheartedly pursue your purpose and unleash your truest potential. Hello, welcome to People of Purpose podcast. Today I have with me our guest here in his home studio in Vegas, Javier Chavez, the COO of Pineda Co.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being on the show, Javier.
Dude, I'm excited. It's going to be a blast.
So we had a last minute turn here, and it went from this was me maybe guesting on his show to him guesting on my show to kind of both of us guesting. So
yeah, so it's going to be a blast.
Trying a new model.
Yeah, and then for me, I'm Javier Chavez. I'm the COO here at Pineda Company, host of the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm super interested to have like this little co-interview or just conversation. You have a super interesting life, it seems like, and from like the little that I know about you, you've done a lot, met a lot of interesting people. So tell me like a little bit about your journey. Like, how'd you end up here? Like, from what were you doing before real estate investing? I know you spent a lot of time overseas. Like, what does that whole story look like?
Yeah, so when I was 23, it started with like a breakup and a brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit my head playing basketball. I was already kind of depressed from my girlfriend breaking up with me. I was like January in Minneapolis working a corporate job I didn't find any fulfillment in. And I got a doctor's note for 6 weeks of corporate disability.
Wow.
And the plan when you have a traumatic brain injury is to like not stimulate your brain. So it's like basically like keep the curtains down, like don't go outside a lot, like don't be on your screen, just like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Let your brain rest. And so that's kind of where I would just like play like mixes of just like beautiful sounds, like Tibetan bowls and stuff. And I would just lay on my apartment floor and like I taught myself meditation.
Interesting.
And during that process, I was going back to like different moments where I was like happy in my life and feeling fulfilled and connected to my purpose. And I found, just like clarity with talking to God and praying about it. It was like a warm country, go to like Eastern culture, learn like mindfulness and be in that space again, because I've like benefited so much from yoga and meditation. Find like time, like don't need to work a job where there's no time. Go to a place where I don't need to worry about money. I wanted massages, I wanted delicious food, I wanted travel to other places, and kind of Thailand was like all of those things. I wanted to be a teacher too, without having to go back and get more credentials. And so, I like signed up to be a teacher in Thailand, and 6 months later I moved to Thailand by myself.
And what were you teaching? Like English?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I had 400 students, like 40 in a classroom and 10 classes. I was in a town center of villages, so it was like 15,000 population town. And my job was like to make English come alive. So I had no curriculum, I had no grades, I had no tests, I had no homework. It was just like use my creativity to make them role play, simulate, play games in English. It was like super fun.
And then so how does that develop to then getting into real estate investing?
Yeah, I mean, being out there, I was headed to Chiang Mai a lot. It was the nearest city, and it's like the digital nomad capital of the world. So there's a lot of people in their 20s and 30s making money off their laptops. So I was learning entrepreneurship. I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I read like The E-Myth Revisited. I read the Steve Jobs bio from Walter Isaacson. I just had a lot of time in my hammock reading, and then I would go out and hang out with people through the ultimate frisbee scene and then the like digital nomad scene. And it always kind of stuck with me, but I didn't have like an idea of exactly what to do. And then I ended up moving to San Francisco and doing a grad program to be a teacher. And during that, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I realized I'm going to be the poor dad because I'm becoming a teacher. I was feeling it too. It was really hard to live in San Francisco.
Especially San Francisco, and you weren't teaching at that time, right? So how? Like...
I was student teaching full time, and I was doing a 1-year accelerated master. So I had no time, no friends, and I lived basically off my bicycle. I paid all of my income to my rent in like 1 bedroom.
That's crazy.
Of like a 6-bedroom apartment. And I read this book, and I was like, wow, like it's back to like some of those things I was learning about in Thailand. But real estate to me felt like a team sport that you didn't have to like invent something or take some big risk on some software application. You can just figure out this model that like a high schooler could figure out, and you just do it over and over again with a team. And I figured I'd always been kind of captains of different teams and stuff.
Yeah.
And so you just apply some leadership. You have some risk tolerance because you have to throw big money around sometimes. And when my program ended, I bought 25 grand on 0% credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved in with a full-time investor in San Diego to learn from him. He took me on a road trip to New Mexico to buy a rental property for himself. I slept in the back of his Suburban for 10 days.
Wow.
He had like a 1-bedroom cabin. And I just went to brokerages and was like, I'm looking for a deal. And I had no job, no money, no credit, no experience, no partner. I don't live in this market. And I'm looking for a property to flip.
So how'd you pitch people like that, right? Like you just walk in, like, because clearly like, some people might not want to work with you because like they're like, dude, this guy's broke or this guy's just like a tire kicker or whatever. So how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like having a clear vision of like why I'm doing this and like living as if that vision is becoming reality, and I'm just like working towards that. So my vision was I'm going to have a real estate company. I'm going to be able to, at that time I was moving back to Thailand to get married to my wife because she wasn't allowed to even enter the US. That prompted a lot of the entrepreneur path, was that she had gotten denied visas twice.
Wow.
And so I needed to come back, and we got married and then came back here. So I just started like telling people what I was doing, and I was like, I'm committed 25 grand. I've been to these seminars. Like, I know what I'm doing. I can talk the same language as you. I can pull this off. Like, I've succeeded in my past. I just got a master's degree, straight A's all the way through since kindergarten. Like,
and that was arguably harder than what real estate investing is.
I agree. Yeah.
Like 100%. Like the way I see things, like I love real estate because it doesn't care how smart you are, doesn't care like your background, just cares if you can find good deals. And obviously, like, the money comes, and like you got to build relationships and a bunch of other like smaller skills. But at the end of the day, it's just finding good deals, and you're gonna make money no matter what, which I love. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead. Like continue.
Yeah. So she let me get a flip house under contract. It was like an REO property from a bank, and then she's like, "What's your plan?" I was like, "I got 3 weeks to buy it." I was like, "Well, I'm going to go to this seminar in Seattle next week. I'm going to find a business partner who's got the money, the credit, can help me flip this house." And I was at the seminar. I was in this big ballroom with like 400 people, and the guru took a poll. He's like, "Raise your hand if you pay for this program on credit cards. Keep your hand up if you quit your job. Keep your hand up if you don't have a car." And I was the last one in the hand. It was basically like the guy who took the biggest risk in the room.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
He came down with the mic, and he's like, "Why are you doing all this? What's your story?" And I told him, like, I'm headed back to Thailand. I'm getting married. I'm in the process of starting my real estate company. It's going to be in Kansas City next spring. I just graduated my master's program, and my purpose is to like create community and build financial freedom so that I can be like a great dad and a husband. And I got like a standing ovation. And I said, "And by the way, I got a deal. It's under contract. I am looking for my business partner here. Meet me today. I'm around." And at that evening at the bar, I found a guy who had 80 grand in the bank account, had a 780 credit score, had just done RV life. So he was like, "I'll move into the driveway with you." He'd been a general, like, licensed general contractor before too.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'll GC this with you, and I'll put the down payment, and I'll go on the hard money. We'll go 50-50.
That's so
And I was
funny.
like, "This is a freaking dream come true."
Yeah, that's just a story in being in the right room, having like relevant skills, and then just putting yourself out there. So I love that.
Yeah,
And
really
so first deal gets done. How much did you make?
My cut was like 8K, which was like $35 an hour. You know?
But it starts you on the path to actually start growing. So fast forward to today, like where's the business at?
Yeah, today we're doing like 6 houses a month. We have a director of operations running the business. We have several different private capital investors. We have hard money that we don't have to put anything down on. We have a team of 8 full time. We have a business model that I'm really excited about. Like, instead of flipping it or renting it, we are owner financing first generation business owners. So mostly like Latino contractors that have the money but don't have the bankability. They don't use credit. They write off expenses. They have seasonal income. So we're able to kind of, on our end, sell at a more premium, get more cash in the business via down payments.
So that meaning you're selling to those people like after you flip it. Got it.
So we're doing like the BRRRR method, but instead of final like renting it, we're like owner financing it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing that strategy for?
2 years or so, yeah.
Okay. And is it truly just because like you want to help these people out, or like what spurred you to want to go that route as opposed to either
Uh,
just selling it or like you said, burying it out?
I think a few things. Like at first, it was like a heart story for me. Like I got my house like that too.
Mm,
So we were renting 800 square foot, half side of a duplex, one bathroom. It was all three of us business partners, my brother and my best friend from Thailand, who's an American. We had all moved in with my wife. So we had four of us, one bedroom or one bathroom and 800 square feet. And my mentor was like, Tanner, like you call yourself a real estate investor and you don't own your own property and you live in this kind of situation.
yep.
He put me through an exercise to like write down like what I want in my house. And he taught me how you can get seller finance and stuff. And so I was like, I'm gonna manifest this, like nothing down, stepping into like 100K plus of equity. It's gonna be like multiple acres house. It's gonna have a swimming pool. It's gonna be 4,000 plus square feet. It's gonna have a jacuzzi tub, a sunroom, and it literally had all of that. The lead
No
showed up
way.
in 5 days. I just
How?
started telling our team all about it, and our inside sales girl RJ from the Philippines she normally like qualifies leads in like 5 minutes or less. She's like, I just had an hour-long call with this lead. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I don't talk to leads that long.
Yeah.
And she's like, he's the guy. He's gonna sell it to you. I gave him your story and your background, and he's gonna do this. And it turns out that was his thing. He had got it seller finance to him when he was getting a fresh start like 30 years ago. And he vowed that he would do that to the next person. He wanted to sell it to someone that was gonna create community, like in that house, like whether it's business or politics. Because his brother had been commissioner of the county.
Oh,
He'd
wow.
been his president of a community college. So he wanted someone that was like going to be like a community leader, and he wanted to seller finance him. And I just told him I'm that. And
That's
he did.
crazy. That's amazing. And so are you still in the house today?
Yeah.
Nice. And so you mentioned people on the team right now. Like how does that kind of break down and what are the roles?
Yeah. So I guess it starts with our acquisition agent, Maddie. She's 1099.
And
But
is she local to you or is she overseas?
she's local.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's an agent and she finds deals off the MLS and wholesalers. We basically cut direct to seller for the time being because there was just so much minutia and so many changes and so much overhead and so many people to manage that we were just like, it doesn't matter because we have such a good exit strategy that we can get premium on all those things. We'll just buy it 75%.
Yeah.
We won't be picky if we got it 70 or 67 or whatever, like we could with direct to seller.
Yep.
So she finds us deals. We're contracting like 2 a month right now. Or sorry, 2 a week right now.
Wow.
And then she passed it to our transaction manager, David. He does all hard money transactions. He does refi transactions. He does private lending transactions. He does the buyer transaction when we own and finance. So he's responsible for starting all the loan stuff with these loan officers and getting it to the finish line with title. And also he underwrites the deals. So he's an agent as well. He sources like the ARV and he helps build a scope of work off the photos and stuff. And then he gives that to our operations director, Jamie. Jamie is still both project manager and operations director. And she has like 5 different contracting crews we work with. And they walk it and they iron out the scope of work details so that it can go to hard money. And then David processes it through that. And she's also running finance now, which is huge. I just passed finance over to her. And so she makes sure like payroll's getting hit and invoices are paid and all that. And we have budgets and we're doing pro formas and working with our accountants.
Yep.
And then we have Phil, who's running dispositions. He's using a few different Latino agents to source buyers for us. And he's pricing it, following up with them, making sure there's showings and offers, negotiating that. He's my co-founder as well. And then Bryce is head of like all the acquisition stuff. So he's like reviewing all final offers before they get signed. He's like learning what our buy box needs to be. He's also kind of like my assistant CEO or co-CEO in certain ways. He'll be taking over a lot of things when I'm in Thailand the next several months.
For sure.
I missed some people. Andy's in the Philippines, been with us for 3 years.
And
He's
what does he do? Yeah.
he can do anything.
He
He's
does
had
it
like
all.
12 jobs inside of our company. Nowadays, he's doing bookkeeping and financial controlling and admin leadership stuff. Now he has and then I have an executive assistant named Tom, who's in the Philippines, and he does like email and calendar management for all the owners, and he books my podcast stuff. He kind of in charge of my social media stuff, so he makes sure like the Riverside links get put in and it gets chopped into reels and it gets put on the platforms and all of that. And then we have a girl that's like 10 hours a week doing all the reels and the YouTubes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's about what I got.
Nice. And this year, what do you think you're gonna do revenue wise with that team?
This year, man, yeah, there was some big setbacks when we formed the team. I would say about $1 million probably this year.
And if you don't mind me asking, like, how much are you gonna net?
So our business is kind of hard to know those things.
Because you're not really flipping, because it's more so like you're just collecting, monthly checks basically.
So I mean, quick math is like each deal kind of nets out like $35K. So we net out like what we do on flips, but then we keep an asset of like 30 to 40K on the back end.
That's pretty solid. Yeah. Okay. Sweet.
So each deal should make about like we underwrite like 120K over 7 years. 7 years is the average time someone will sell or refinance their house. And then we're getting private capital of about 25K on the front end in exchange for, like, we basically sell away some of our equity for money today. It's tax free as well, versus when you flip is like short-term capital gains.
For sure.
So that 25K plus we get about 15 to 20 down, and then there's some commissions and stuff. So we end up netting out like 35K.
There we go.
And that's like netting after cost of goods sold. But then still you have to look at our fixed operating expenses too.
Yeah.
So if we're doing like 5 houses a month, conservatively, that's 150K. Our fixed operating expenses are about 75 or 80 right now. So it's like 75 a month, and then you do like 12 months. But we haven't been at that kind of margin the whole time. So I don't know. We'll probably net out like 250 or 300.
I mean, reason why I ask is because for most people to generate like $1 million a year in revenue in any other business, it requires a big team or some software that took forever to build out. But that's why I love like a real estate business, because I mean, for the same size team and for, like we said earlier, a pretty easy process, like a simple process.
Yeah.
Like it's the only business that has that kind of upside with the simplicity of these processes, in my opinion. You don't have to know a whole lot. You just gotta, again, know no acquisitions, have a good exit strategy, and have access to capital, which you've already proved isn't the hardest part. Like you were able to find a partner at a real estate seminar, like, and then I'm sure, like, how are you raising funds like right now for all these deals? Is it just through other capital partners?
Right now, we're primarily leaning on local family offices.
Love it.
So family offices are like wealthy family that's keeping generational wealth, and they want to be a limited partner or passive investor. They want bigger returns than like mom and pops do, but they got really deep pockets, so we can just reliably.
How did you find those like family offices?
We're in the family office club, and so we've been going to that for a little bit. That's been fun. But our best one right now, our main one, is we met him in the sauna.
No way.
My business partner Phil met him in the sauna, nurtured the relationship with his name's Joe. Then he put us in touch with his CFO. His CFO manages money for multiple family offices. So he kind of broke down our business model and made like kind of a cash flow model around it. And he's like, whoa, this is like really smart and inventive, and like I really like it. And I can get a lot of people that would be down for this. So you just find a couple of people that believe in you, and then they start spreading the word.
Yep. And if you have something of value, money's going to flow anyway.
And these guys are doing like long term. It's like 7 year, like 5 to 7 year private money.
That's crazy. I love that. And so you've built this business. I know we talked before the podcast, you have a baby on the way. Like, what is the goal with the business? Is it more so like just to fuel the lifestyle? Are you trying to scale it to, a crazy level? Like what do you want to do with the company?
Yeah, I want my role to be where we've like really maxed out Kansas City, and we've started the next 2 markets or 3 markets. And then I want to get a CEO in place to replace myself. I see that happening sometime in the next 2 years. And that CEO would take it to dozens of markets.
Got it.
Yeah.
Love it. And then how soon are you trying to do that?
So the next 90 days, I'm moving to Thailand. I'm having a baby. So not the next 90
For
days.
sure.
And then I'll come back and yeah, get situated again. I don't know. Like I'm fine with like a pace that's not too crazy, but probably like a year and a half from now, I would say we're at like 15 to 20 a month in Kansas City, and we've maybe opened up like a Tulsa, Oklahoma, or like an Omaha, Nebraska, or Wichita,
Mhm.
Kansas, or maybe one or two of those type of things. And we have an operator we've partnered with, and they're solidly doing like 5 to 10 a month.
Wow.
So we'd be doing, I guess, 30 to 40 a month
Mhm.
at that point.
I love it.
I have a vivid vision. I read Vivid Vision,
Yeah, yeah.
and I have a 3-year vivid vision
What is that like?
is
Yeah, tell
on
me what it
there.
looks like.
I can't remember all the financial details, but yeah, it was like over the next 5 years, we're doing 1,000 houses on this model where, so our business model is basically we're financing families for first-time homeownership. We're working with first-generation Americans, small business owners, usually a combination of that. 80% of the time, it's a Latino contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they own a family-owned flooring company or whatever. They're making really good money. They have money for a 20, 30K down payment. They're going to pay their bills on it, but they've never used the credit system. They write off their income. Their income fluctuates too much, so a bank doesn't finance them. Sometimes they just have ITIN numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they might not have a green card yet. And so we're able to finance them. And so that's like what I'm calling like the 1,000 families. And yeah, that's like our purpose indicator with Gary Harper.
Yeah.
We're in Gary's program.
Nice.
So yeah, there's that side, and then like the other side is like lifestyle. Like the lifestyle of choice is that I'm like on the board of advisors. My role is to mentor the CEO and kind of ideate and brainstorm alongside them. It would be like 4 hours a week commitment, and we're able to basically create another lifetime of net worth annually for my family.
What do you mean another lifetime of net worth?
Make about $1 million of net worth increase a year.
I love it. Okay, that
You
makes
know, if you
sense.
can manage that at like a 8% or whatever return, then you can basically live anywhere in the world like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
something like that.
That's awesome. And now with like, did you have this vision previous to knowing that you were pregnant or like that your wife was pregnant?
Yeah. I
Do
think
you feel like I guess the better question is, how do you feel like it's changed, or how have you kind of changed things now that you know you have a kid on the way?
like more urgency. Yeah, I mean, it's something to be said for like life is happening right now. It's not like in 1 year I'll be these things. It's like no, like summon it right now. Like what is a way to build a bridge to that tomorrow, like right now? And so a big thing we did this summer was we hired a director of operations. We hired Jamie. She'd been doing a lot of operations direction stuff with Walmart. Then she took a family-owned startup and she scaled that and sold that to private equity. So she's got an MBA, finance and accounting background, knows how to manage large budgets. She did ground up construction for Walmart's. Like she would do like 6 at a time, and she would go all the way from bare ground to all the systems and team inside working and customers buying things off the shelves. And then she'd go to the next construction of that. And so I was like, well, she's never flipped houses, but she could probably figure this out. And so we negotiated a deal with her where she gets like 10% of the upside profits. And so I gave her my vision, and she's like, that's a big vision. I want to work with someone that has a big vision that fits my values, that would honor my ability to have authority. And I'm not some overbearing person that wants to like take all of her authority away. So that one was probably absolutely huge. And then the other one was like getting deep pocket private money into our business instead of, because we were like funding from shorter term sources, higher interest sources, our own checking account reserves. That was really dangerous when we were self-funding our deals.
Oh, absolutely.
But like there was a period of time that was like things were moving really fast. We were buying houses, we were needing to sell them, and then we had all this equity and we needed to create money. And so, yeah, it was like there was a lot of urgency created messes, but then those messes created feedback, and then the feedback created cleaner systems and clearer roles and created urgency around hiring coaches like Gary and hiring you guys. And we've definitely increased our overhead around education and like coaching and stuff.
Yeah.
But I know like what we're building towards, and it's worth it.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, once you're at a certain level, like you need coaches to be able to just grow. Like I know we've spent hundreds of thousands, maybe even like close to $1 million. Actually, probably not. Probably like $500,000 just in education over the last like 2-3 years So like I get it, because you're only going to grow as big as your leader or as big as like your knowledge is, right? Because there might be another strategy, there might be just another way to go about things that you didn't even know about, or also the network piece, right? Like just who's in these groups, how are you able to connect with other people, and so yeah, I think that's
I
huge.
think a lot of it is also emotional intelligence. It like boils down to like your ways of being around people. Like,
Hmm.
are you abundant? Are you like
Hmm.
connected with people? Are you loving? Are you compassionate? Do you show up in support and contribution? Or are you a taker and you're
Hmm.
selfish and you're scarcity and you're, you know, I think like that's a huge piece of it too. It's
Absolutely,
just the
just to like,
character traits.
yeah, well, your character's traits when you show up, and then like you said, like, are you providing more value more so than taking? And actually, like when I've talked to a couple people about like just again same thing, like I have a kid on the way, and so I was like, what are the qualities that you want to instill like in your child to make sure that they're going to be, not successful, or but the big one that I really like that I've heard is just like, are they like a net positive to society, or like you said, or are they a taker? Like that's like the overarching theme that like this person wanted to leave for their kids, and I was like, I really like that a lot. It's just, and because again, that means a lot of things. Like, do they leave situations better than they found them? How do they make the people around them feel? Do they feel better? Or again, like, are they sucking energy? So yeah, I think that's something that I'm gonna really try to take with.
Yeah. What kind
Yeah.
of philosophies or like ideas are you bringing into parenthood?
Oh man. Yeah, I think the things that like I'm really trying to focus on, and obviously like when they're newborn, there's not much I can do. But I think a couple of the big ones are going to be like self-discipline. I think some of the most successful parents that I've seen are parents that from a very early age help their child, like, okay, hey, like it's time to brush your teeth, right? And like they get excited to go out and go do that thing, or like, so, and then eventually they get to a point where like they have their own sense of right and wrong very quickly. So they're, again, it's just self-discipline, and they're like, hey, like, I want to go to bed now so that way I can wake up early so I can go hang out with dad in the morning because he's going to go do his workout or he's going to go do his thing. And then, one thing that I've learned from Ryan is like your kids are just going to emulate everything that you do. So it's like, Ryan wakes up every morning, reads his Bible, and now I think he's like a 3 or 4 year old. It's like, hey, I want my Bible, right? So like, yeah, it's awesome, right? And so like, however, whatever your thing is, like just the kids, as far as I know, the kids are just going to emulate what you're doing anyway. So like whatever traits or qualities you want them to have, like you just need to have, and then they're going to watch you more than me just telling you what to do. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the big stuff.
How you feeling about your traits and qualities?
I feel good, man. I feel like my routines are pretty solid. I wake up, I'm reading my Bible as well. I'm, doing my gym. I think the relationship that I have with my wife is pretty on point. And I know she'd say the same.
That's huge.
Yeah, so it is huge, right? Like, and I think we both try to serve each other. And so, I think like, because I'm having a daughter and I'm going to be the first representation of like a male figure in her life, I feel pretty good about what she's going to see. And so, obviously, I have to continue to maintain that. But I think that's the big thing, is just like, especially with a daughter, like both. If I was having a son, same thing. It's like I'm going to be the first representation of what a man should be, and then same thing for a daughter. So yeah.
What gaps do you have, or what areas for elevation are available for you?
Um, Ooh, that's a good question. I think I could always serve my wife more. I think I do a good job, but I think that is always going to be an area of improvement. I think from I'm always thinking about money, so I always think I could be generating more and having more time freedom. So like one thing that I really want to focus on is, eventually just spending more time at home during, like, I'm gonna probably take like a few months off. Like I'll probably like work the following months, but I want to take a few weeks off just completely.
Me
And
too. Yeah.
yeah, just spend time, and then I'll probably be working from home for like the next 2 or 3 months after that. Maybe pop in the office here and there, but for the most part, I want to be. So I think that's an area for improvement because it hasn't happened yet, but that's like a big focus of mine that
What's on your mind about how to like proactively make success happen with that?
I'm already like thinking about like being a lot more detailed with our tracking and our KPIs and stuff. We already are, but like making sure that I can set everything in place. So number one, I can monitor from somewhere from further away. I don't like a lot of the time people are just coming into my office asking me questions and stuff like that. So I want to make sure that I can set them up to be a lot more self-sufficient, and then also have the right tools and resources so that way I can just pop on my phone and like look and see how the business is doing from like a KPI perspective and stuff like that. So I think that's the simple stuff. And the good part too is, you know, we have pretty good leaders already in the business. And so just making sure that they're feeling as good as possible before I peace out of here. So I think some of those things are what we're pretty focused on right now. What about you?
Yeah, that's similar stuff. I think you're coming more from a KPI angle. Mine's more like, what can I do to, I'm CEO, so like, what can I do to equip my COO
Yep.
to be ready? And yeah, it's like we're tightening up KPIs. I'm giving her financial controls now. There's a sense of like, yeah, like not doing way too many new things at once.
Do you have a threshold? You just mentioned financial controls. Do you have a threshold of like, hey, like this is how much you can spend or like manage before I need to get involved? Or have you talked about that yet?
We are talking about it. Right now, like, I mean, she spends a lot, but it's like the scope of work on the draws. It's
For
like
sure.
where most of it's happening.
Yeah.
So that's pretty self-explanatory. Your budgets are 63 grand and it's broken down like this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Outside of that, like it's payroll. We talked about hiring a new person. We just made that choice, and that increased 3,500 salary, and then he's getting commission. We're bringing our selling in-house now. I don't know. If I were to tell her right now, I would say like $5,000 and get Bryce's approval. And Bryce is my brother and co-founder.
Yeah.
And then if Bryce has some question about it, he can go to me. Like I want filters because I'm really committed to being on paternity leave. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, we've never experienced that before. Right. And I'm like, I'm the owner, I'm founder, CEO. So it's like, it's kind of weird, but I think we're ready for it. It's just, yeah, I just let her guide it. Like when I was doing the master's in education, I kind of studied a lot of like student-centered learning, like Montessori type of education. So I mostly like don't lead with like directives and my own solutions. I'm leading with questions and opportunities for her to like share with me, and like kind of coaching out of her what she already kind of knows. And so she kind of, I guess, leads me in that sense.
I love that. And that's so important for a lot of people who are hiring. Like they don't give people the freedom or just ask good questions. I think a lot of people just like they find someone who's super talented, but then they don't let their talent shine and they don't let their talent grow. And that's something that, you know, if you hire the right person, just ask the right questions and then get out of the way, and then let them do their thing.
I think it all comes down to like, how clear am I on our vision, our values, our kind of parameters. Like we with one of our consultants, Nate from Integro is what they're called. We created what he calls like a playground. It's like anything inside of this fence can be played with, and outside the fence is not us. There's danger outside there.
Yeah.
And so we have our 5 things in the playground, which are like service and personal growth and community, freedom, and what was the other one? Fun. And so it's like, it has to hit all of those. If one of those is missing or there's something that's in contradiction to those, then we don't make a decision to do it. No matter like what the short-term benefits would be, it's rooting us in the wrong foundation for what we're building upon.
So would you consider like your playground based like your core values? So it has to cover these 5 things and then we're not going to do it?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But thinking of it like a playground or like a sandbox is nice because it puts boundaries around it. It's like, if there's a 6th value that's like, I don't know, like for us, we're probably not super into profit at all costs, for example, right?
That's a good one. Yeah.
That would like kill a sense of service. So it's like knowing that it hits all of these things, or else we don't do it, and it doesn't like do something in contradiction. That creates a lot of freedom within there for her to make financial decisions, because she can be like, this is in service, this is fun, this creates freedom for the owners. We're not trying to have a company where I'm working 70 hours in a grinding fashion to get rich. Like it's about leveraging leveraging our gifts and our talents and our network and our resources, sharing the pie, expanding it bigger and bigger and bigger, creating a vision that can be inclusive of hundreds and hundreds of other people's visions inside of it. So we're like a vision container.
Yeah.
And my role is to just keep expanding that container through relationships.
Do you feel like you've always had this, I guess, philanthropic view on business? Or when did you feel like it was more like, hey, I want to do something that's going to impact more people, as opposed to like the, I don't want to say traditional,
That's a good question. Yeah.
but like, because a lot of people would value profit at all costs. Like, I wouldn't say that we do either. Like, it's not any within our core values. Like, yes, we're in business to make money, but the angle that you take is like, if we're like a 6 out of 10 on the profit scale, like the way like it's not like you run your business, I'd put it at like a 3 or a 4, where it's like we want to make money, but impact's more important. So yeah, when do you think that was kind of a value that you thought about?
I like that question. It's a good question. I think for me, one danger about the KPIs is that they're looking at a snapshot in time that's now. And I'm looking at where we will be in 3 years or 5 years when we continue the compounding benefits of this trajectory we're on. So having a brand, both personally and business-wise, that's well-known in our community and trusted and respected and liked, is going to create massive referrals. It's going to create high-level employees joining us. It's going to get a lot of investors interested. And so while we might be 6 months into something and it's like 3 or 4 on the profit scale, when you fast forward this times another 10 evolutions of market cycles, like that is going to be highly profitable.
Absolutely.
And I felt that with like how we got our business partnership going and how we've got our business model. Like our business model is like extremely profitable business model. And now it's just a matter of doing that many, many times in a row efficiently. So I would say that that's part of the answer. And the other part is like, I almost died when I was 19. I fell at Yosemite National Park. I spent the night on the mountain in a stretcher with a search and rescue crew, and I got helicoptered out.
Wow.
And like that put a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah.
And like profit was not something on my mind during that time.
Absolutely. What was on your mind?
Jesus and my relationships with my family and how I treated other people and what contribution I gave to society and what legacy that I would leave behind. And I made a lot of vows and commitments to God during those 12 hours of just being broken. I realized I was going to keep my life, but it was just pure luck. It was like rolling and rolling and rolling and then flipped down a cliff and landed on my butt instead of my head. It's the only reason I got to live.
Wow.
So like, yeah, that experience like put a lot of things into perspective and it kind of showed me what mattered. And I had been living for like, winning and grades and making good money in sales and dating the hottest girls and, I was just like living for my own accolades. And it's like, I realized that wasn't the purpose in life. And I see the temptation crop up again in business. And it's like, I've kind of been here before, not like at this scale, not in this way, but still you can, for me,
you're seeing the parallel.
I see a pattern. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also study other people like a lot. I've interviewed 120 people on my podcast, and this is a common theme is like with them is like value, like real relationships, like always give more value than you're taking and have a long-term view of things and start from the right foundation and know what your vision is, know what your values are. And I think as I've gotten more, I went to Thailand to go find those things out when I was 24. I left to Thailand by myself, became an English teacher. And my whole purpose there was to figure, what do I stand for? What do I care about enough? What do I want to create in the world? What impact do I want to have? And to me, like the profit and the money is like the fuel for those things. It is not the 100%. End and it's not the purpose of my life. And so, yes, we want profit and money. And to me, those things are just so inabundant. Like I've never had to spend $1 of money of my own on a real estate deal. I've never like struggled with getting other people to give us capital for deals. I've never struggled to like find people that wanted to partner with us or do, hey, I'll sell something and you get a commission. Like to me, it's like when you open the doors to playing team rather than like playing there's a lot of doors open and it creates a synergy. And then my role is basically just make sure that the seats on the bus are filled with the right people and they're in the right seat, that are in their gifts, in their passions, in their like desired spot that they want to stay long term. And then keep feeding them a story and a vision that they're a hero within it. And people know how to do this. I don't need to be some expert at profit to make profit.
Absolutely. Like, I feel like the people who are chasing the profit never, like, it's a lot harder to find. But like, again, when you're operating in abundant and then like you're just providing value and you're again in the right place with the right people in the right seats, the money's the easy, not the easiest, but it's easier than people make it out to be.
It becomes predictable.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a better word. It just becomes way more predictable for the deals that you're doing and stuff like that.
And I've hired people like you that like care a lot about focusing on it.
Yeah.
This is a criticism of me. People are like, Tanur, you don't talk enough about profit and revenue and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just know those things are coming. Like we're going here. And I'm always like kind of 3 steps ahead of where people are currently focused on.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like where I'm gifted at. And so I realized like there was a while where I was COO and CEO and I was not profit oriented enough. I was like going to your guys' thing and dropping money on the All-Star program and stuff, right? And it's like, it was probably a little bit premature. But I knew like with the compounding benefits of being in your guys' network and like learning these things and building a personal brand. And yeah, for a couple of months, it is a setback and then it propels you forward. So I like being able to be leading on my side. And now we have a COO that will say, you know, we're going to make these decisions in these orders over these times. We get like Gary Harper challenges us to earn our way to that new employee. I'm always kind of pressing on those boundaries a little bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because like, and that's the same relationship. Like probably you and your COO probably have a similar relationship to me and Ryan, right? Ryan is always like, he's thinking 3-4 steps ahead, big picture, big visionary stuff. And then I have to figure out like the how of today to like make sure that it all works out. And which is great. Like, I love it. And like you said, people just have different gifts and different, just their minds operate slightly different. And it's great. So I think that's super important. But again, it's just getting in. It's kind of a reoccurring theme, and I'm sure you talk about it a lot on your podcast of just like being in the right rooms and sharing ideas, and then it fuels you to then come back to your team with new ideas and then cast the vision that. And a big thing that you said that I definitely relate to here is like your vision has to be big enough to everybody within your organization has to see their dreams or their goals being achieved within your vision. And that's obviously what's happened here for me. How do you communicate that vision, or like how often are you like casting that to the team?
It's my answer to a lot of the issues list questions or whatever. It's just like, so I would say weekly we have a leadership meeting that is kind of this nature. And then monthly we have a purpose meeting, which Gary does. And then quarterly for sure is a big one. We're doing like a full 8-hour session and we're talking about where we're going. People see me bring people over and I'm the people. So we office out of our big home like this. We have a 5,000 square foot home. It has a pool and 5 acres. And so people will come over and like buy me lunch or buy me a coffee or whatever and ask me questions. And I'm sharing vision with them. Anytime we're hiring people, I'm sharing it. And I have like the other leaders on those calls when we're hiring people. I would say we have these big pool parties. We have like 300 people over. We awesome. Have like DJs and fire spinners, and we have a yurt with like different workshops. A whole marketplace opens up. Like people are selling arts and crafts. People are doing tattoos. There's ice bathing.
Oh my!
People bring their kids.
This sounds
over.
Awesome.
It's super fun, and I always get a chance to be on the mic a little bit and kind of share vision about like. This is us remembering like what it's like to really be a human, no matter what your socioeconomic background is, no matter what your past is. Like we're here right now, we can breathe, we can feel the presence of God, we can connect with real people. We have abundance today. And the whole party's free. Like everyone donates their thing. So the DJs play for free, the yoga teachers do yoga teaching for free, the fire spinners do a show, like people bring potluck stuff. So it's like it's this reminder of like we don't have to like grind and toil our way around to be a millionaire to feel a thing. Like we can be that now.
I think that's so important.
I think that's part of what the vision I'm trying to cast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that thought, because so many people are like, once I make it here, then I can enjoy the fruits of my labor, or then I can like relax or, spend time with my family and all those things. But like, you really don't need to do any of that. Like you can do, like you said, you can be here now and spend time with the people who you care about now,
Yeah.
and just like you said, enjoy. But
I think the order is like be, do, have. I think our
Mm.
culture has it kind of flipped. It's
Yeah.
like you do whatever it takes to have these things, then you get to do these things, then you get to be the feelings that you want to feel.
Mhm.
And it's such a moving the goalposts, like it's always sliding out of reach for people. Like I've
Yeah.
tried that. Like that's not it. Like no, like let's feel connection, abundance, love, like community right now. And
Mhm.
like as we feel that, now we people like you say, here's how we're getting there. Here's what we're doing. And now the doing starts, and then the having, like the profits start coming
Yeah,
in.
exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
like profits are always the lagging indicator. Like
Mhm.
whether it be like spiritually, like you don't see the fruit of like all the stuff you're doing today, like the connections that you're building, the things that you're doing with your wife, or let's say you know you're hanging out with your parents. Like you're going to see that fruit down the road from the relationships
Yeah.
that you're doing today, and then obviously so that like the fruit of your relationships, that's your indicator, and then you have like in business. Same thing, like the things that you do today are going to result in profits down the road. I think that the two are very well related in that regard.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
don't hope that answered your question.
it
It's kind
did.
of a hard question, but yeah.
It is, yeah. But I mean, I think it's interesting. You mentioned when you were like 24 and you know figuring out who you were and who you weren't. Um, like what was that process like? So like how did you take in? Because again, you're coming from being in the West, going to an Eastern country where they have like a ton of different ideals and religions and all this other stuff. So how did you synthesize everything to like now be you?
What is my unique world viewpoint? I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, so I went over there as a Christian, but I went over like as a Christian that like wasn't really regularly attending church.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really in the word every day. I've always prayed every day.
Mm-hmm.
I've always like kind of journaled gratitude, and I would say like I knew where I was going after I died,
Mm-hmm.
but I was still like I don't know. I was still kind of searching for something. I don't know what it was, but I was like I'm just not that fulfilled or happy inside. Like I
sure.
know like where I'm going and
Mm-hmm.
like when I die, but I don't feel like I'm living anything today that's like remarkable. And so when I got out there, it was like a sense of like, let's get back into those things that I used to do. So I would like read my Bible for like a long period of time and like really meditate on certain little psalms or whatever, and then go on a walk and just like repeat a mantra of like something I just read. And that would be a part. And then another part would just be like, today I'm just surrendered to wherever the breadcrumbs lead me. I have no plan. I step out of my apartment. The wind makes me look this way. I follow that alley. Then like I run into a pickup basketball game. I feel compelled to play. I jump in the game. Those guys invite me to eat Thai food with them afterwards. Then they bring me to like a concert, and then I come home and I'm like, what did I learn? It was just like, and then I did a ton of writing. I had a blog, and so I started a blog there, like letters to myself, and I would just write little like maxims or principles of learning, and then I would kind of take those and like do a 4-hour session at like a coffee shop, and just like I treated it like I was like a professional writer. I would like write this like structured letter, and then I'd post it, and my Facebook like friends and family would read it, give me feedback. It was kind of a way to stay connected, but also like it put me through like a lot of reflective exercises. And then I would realize like, oh, like I could actually like seek out these transformative experiences that would provide clarity and insight. I'm in a really unique country to do that. Like, what do Thai people do to like come of age? And it was like, there's this thing called Vipassana meditation. It's like, it's non-religious, but it was created by the Buddha. And it's basically just like a process of like body scanning, and you listen to like talks about like life wisdom, and it's 10 days of silence. I signed up for that, and I did that, and that was like that was like really impactful on me. Like gave me a lot of self-awareness. Like, where does my mind roam to? Like what like craving and addiction patterns do I fall into? Where do I want to like push things away quickly? Where do I want to like avoid the truth? Where do I get ego to crop up? Like a lot of that stuff, when you meditate 14 hours a day for 10 days in a row, like you start to see your little patterns.
Yeah.
So I did stuff like that. I went to an ashram in India and did yoga teacher training.
I've done that. Yeah. Here in the US, but
really?
yeah.
That's cool.
200 hours.
Yeah, we read the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and we had like Dharma talks, and we would like stare at candles and like do like the asanas. And yeah, there's something about yoga that like it means unity. And so like creating unity in yourself, in your life, and it's like that integrity to self piece. I thought like yoga like really showed me how business is the same as marriage, is the same as raising kids, is the same as taking care of my health. It's like all one. And I got a lot from that. And I don't know, it was experiences like that. I worked on an organic farm in a really rural village in Cambodia, and it was like I was mixed with all these like international backpackers that had all been traveling like many years, like without a home. Like that, and they're like all about sustainable living, like living close to the earth. I was barefoot every day. I was like being a substitute homeschool teacher for their kids. I was like learning French and Spanish and German and Japanese with these people, and I was reading books in my hammock. And I was like, I get a lot out of getting immersed in a cultural experience where my perceptions can kind of be altered. I would even say it extended so far as like I did some plant medicine ceremonies.
Oh, for sure.
I did like ayahuasca, I did peyote, like Native American type of traditions that they've been doing for thousands of years to like, that's like a medicine for the soul.
What's the difference between your ayahuasca trip and your peyote experience?
They're not very similar.
Really?
Yeah. Ayahuasca is like a deepward, like inner journey. It is a lot of ancestral feelings. Like I feel like I could like go back into like what my grandparents were like and like really feel like my grandparents inside me. It was like a very like ayahuasca is kind of famous for purging. You have a bucket and you want to throw up.
Yeah.
And I always could like locate in my body where it was coming from, and then like a memory of like that was like I kind of like buried
like a trauma.
Yeah, like little mini traumatic things would come up. In yoga they call them like sankharas, and so like those sankharas would come out during it. Versus peyote was like very communal. Like it was like you're extremely present with others around you. It was like kind of hard for me to get internal with myself. I was like tapped into people's energy like a lot. And it's like that one.
I feel like that'd be tough if you're like in a group and did you know everybody in the peyote group or?
I knew 4 people and there was like 50.
Wow.
Also peyote has this really, it's North American like native people versus ayahuasca's like South American.
Yep.
Ayahuasca, you can like, it's in the dark. You have like, you can take whatever posture you want. You can lay down, you can stand up. In peyote, like they have like really strict rules, like no water, no, don't go pee, like stay seated. Like you're right on the ground. You stay in the circle. If you do need to leave, you walk, like clockwise. You never walk in front of anyone getting served medicine. You never walk in front of anyone doing music.
Interesting.
So you're like hyper vigilant about like, it's
rules.
very rigid and structured and disciplined.
And did you feel like pretty present, like during it? It was more so just like a psychedelic, more of experience, but you still had like your wherewithal about you when you were on peyote, or
yeah. Peyote was like I didn't feel very like sense of any hallucinating or anything like that. It was just a sense of like, that unity or oneness with others was like really present. And then by the end of it, I just felt like really connected with this group. Some of these guys like were enduring some hard stuff. I guess one of their big mentors had just died like yesterday before our ceremony. And they were just bawling and mourning during one of these songs. And it made me like just release compassion for them. And I was crying. I don't even know them or the person they're crying for, but that feeling is such a basic, like universal feeling. And there's something just really healing about, just like feeling those raw emotions that others feel. Like it's easy to get kind of cold and disconnected and like in our own world and say like, we're around homelessness and stuff and we're just like, well, that's there and I'm here. This felt like we're in this container as one. So their suffering is like something I'm feeling too.
So from both those experiences, and you kind of just answered one of my questions, but like what else did you take away from both of those experiences? You can talk about peyote first and then your ayahuasca experience. Yeah,
with peyote, it was like how much I do like love and care for community. Like community for me is like very rooted in my purpose for who I am. I'm a unifier of community. I'm a creator of community. I create a container of visions that people can work within. My business is a community. We get our leads from our community. Like it's like, community is just so at the source of how I find meaning and joy and happiness and purpose. And then with ayahuasca, I would say what I got from ayahuasca was this feeling of like I don't know, like purification from like childhood traumas. I was like, I noticed in certain ways I was still like tied in with my ex, even though I was married. Like I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
talked to her in 7 years or whatever, but there was still a feeling of like longingness for her or like a mourning for our relationship that I had never like letting out. And I was able to like bawl over that for a little while and like throw up, and all of a sudden it was like
It's
she's
gone.
gone. It
Interesting.
felt really freeing.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. And then, do you still regularly take psychedelics? No.
No. No, not really. I mean, if it's the right group and there's a time in my life and stuff, like
Yeah.
I feel like these are not things to do for fun. They're like deep,
It's
like
very deep.
reverence.
Absolutely.
These
Yeah.
experiences need reverence. They need like an intention. They need like you don't just like stumble into them. Like they're something that, so I don't know. Like I'm open to doing them again, but I'm not seeking them out right now. Like I've been
Yeah.
on pretty much sobriety, and I've been on like the build a business and become a
Yeah.
husband and
Well,
become a
yeah,
dad.
tell me about the sobriety journey. So, are you drinking or are you doing it like?
I generally am not like a like purist of anything, even with
Mhm.
like diet and stuff.
Yeah,
Like
you're not gonna just say like I'm.
I had like
Yeah.
a Sonic milkshake and burger like 3 days ago.
That's fair.
Yeah, and same thing with drinking is like, I don't know, when's the last time I drank? Probably I was in Manhattan in New York,
Hmm.
and we were at the family office club, and I was out with these billionaire people, and we got table service, and I got a gin and tonic.
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, like I'll do that, but I haven't been drunk in ages, like years. And yeah, I don't know. In general, like I enjoy feeling like I'm treating my body like a temple. Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I keeping my mind clean? I'm keeping my emotions clean. I'm not getting in emotional entanglements with the wrong people. I'm not getting in business with the wrong people. Like I like a feeling of like flow and ease and transparency and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like all those things are really heightened when you're sober and like
Absolutely.
in
You
control.
can.
And yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah.
And so, how are you going to like communicate all that, or like when do you feel like you're gonna start trying to instill that into your daughter?
Now, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like before she's born is, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I think, I think in the Western culture, we look for outside things to give us some sort of quick fix pleasure.
100%.
And I think in the Eastern culture, they look for, that, but in a little bit of a different way. It's more of like they're trying to have community. In the Eastern culture, it's like a collective mindset. Like they don't
What do you
have so
mean?
much like the I mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we have like we celebrate people like rising up and becoming the strong individual and breaking free from the parents' house and building a company.
Mm-hmm.
They're more in like how can I be like mannerly and in politeness and alignment and like not really upsetting the balance of my community. And so there's a feeling I feel like, and our daughter's gonna be both.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so obviously the Western one, it would be like sugars and sweets and like
Oh, sure.
quick
Yeah.
fix things. Like I'm not just gonna be handing her
Mm-hmm.
those things, like there should be a sense of um the reward is the fact that like you worked hard and you like have a feeling of like I accomplished something, and I recognize how proud of her I am, and
Mm-hmm.
I help instill in her, empower in her that she's proud of who she is and what she did. Like I feel like contributing to her sense of self-worth is like where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think in Thailand it's about encouraging her to be influential in the community rather than be passive and kind of blending in. Figure out how you can influence some level of change or transformation within the community there. Yeah.
That's a good answer. And do you feel like you're gonna probably like just the logistic question? Are you probably gonna be splitting time between the two pretty regularly, or like have you guys talked about how you're gonna balance? I know you're gonna go there for 3 months, but after that,
Yeah, our vision moving forward is January, February, and March in Thailand.
okay.
May through Thanksgiving, roughly, in Kansas City, and then have a little bit of margin for world travel or US travel or whatever, like just openness for travel. So like 3 months in Thailand, 3 months traveling the world, 6 months in Kansas City is kind of the structure we want to follow. within like, some level of flexibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't see a whole lot that needs me in Kansas City in January, February, March. Like the weather's kind of
It's gonna be
sucks.
terrible. That's
Yeah.
how we feel. I have a lot of family in California, so we're like ideally split time between those two. Definitely don't need to be in Vegas during, you know, May, June, July. It's like the worst time.
Yeah, you got it kind of opposite here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's like the in between months. Like it's starting to get a little chillier now, but yeah, we'll spend time here because her family's here, and then go back. And we do want to do some travel too, and that's the thing that I'm kind of excited for. Is just get like seeing like the world through her lens, like as she's growing up. Not that we're like trying to. I'm just gonna use this analogy, but like going to Disneyland for the first time, you're like get to see all these like crazy things, and I know it's like a tough analogy. Like I just seeing her go through life for the first time, I think is something that I'm really excited for.
Me too.
Yeah, just experience it.
My wife and I serve with the 3 and 4-year-olds at church. Like
Uh-huh.
that's the ministry that we serve in. And it's so fun to like get on the ground with them and like get in their world. Like what are they putting these blocks together for? And like what are they trying to say to me with like their 5 words of English that they kind of barely can pronounce? And
Yeah.
how can I move myself in some
Mhm.
silly way that they start to do that? And
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna super savor that kind of experience.
Is there anything you're nervous for, or anything that you're like a little afraid of?
I mean, the thing that's like really a big stretch for us, and she's gonna feel it, is the fact that she lives in two like complete polar opposite cultures and language systems.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how kids do that, but I would. I mean, I've always been intimidated. I'm already getting intimidated.
Mhm.
In 5 days, I'm gonna be dropped in Thailand.
Yeah.
There's no English around. How do I hear people? How do I express myself? I guess I'm kind of nervous that she's gonna feel maybe like not good enough at either language, and therefore she might not like want to speak up or express herself
Mhm.
or something like that.
I think kids are pretty adaptable though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're like, as long as and it sounds like you will, like you're just bouncing back and forth, I think she's gonna be totally fine.
And one trait that I see in myself is like I never quite fit in anywhere. Like and so she's already got this like system where she's gonna be, multimillionaire parents that
Mm-hmm.
have complete financial and location freedom. And even like I'm a Christian and I do ayahuasca, like even like that,
Yeah,
like
that-
doesn't
yeah.
really match. And it's like, yeah, I'm just wondering if she's gonna feel a sense of like somewhat of like a sense of solitude with herself or something, that like there's no one that
Mhm.
quite gets me in the world because
Yeah.
I got this alternative lifestyle that I don't see a lot of other people
Mhm.
living.
Or she might feel at home in any situation, which
Yeah,
is like the
which is
idea.
what I kind of feel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like even though you might not feel like you fit in any spot, but because you've had these like so many different types of experiences, I think you can probably relate to people pretty well, regardless of.
But I like almost died and I've like ran out of money, and I was in India and when they canceled their
Yeah.
currency, and I was hitchhiking with like a taxi driver that I thought was scamming me, and like she's gonna, for me, like I had to go through some pretty rough experiences.
Uh-huh.
I had divorced parents at 4 years old, made me a better leader and like big brother and get emotional intelligent like out of necessity. Like I'm wondering how that's gonna look for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is one of the things that I'm concerned about too. Like because we're both gonna have kids that are gonna be a lot more well off than we were. Like how are you gonna provide her with like controlled adversity? Like because that's my biggest concern is like she's gonna have a very pretty cushy life. Like so how do we as parents like let them fail and then have them like encounter something that.
What do you consider to be a cushy life?
I mean, like I think so. Everything's like you said, everything's gonna be taken care of. We're gonna have real estate. We're gonna have like a nice, comfortable life. Like it's not like she's gonna worry where her next meal is gonna come from, or she's gonna worry about. I mean, my wife and I, I don't unless something drastic, crazy happened. Like we'll be together. Like we make a conscious effort to make sure that we're
Yeah.
gonna like have a healthy and good relationship. So a lot of like the stressors that some kids have, whether it be like so I'm a child of divorce, like I think again half the country is, so it's not nothing like
too.
special,
Yeah.
right? But I mean like the things that some kids have to deal with in terms of adversity, or
On that, what ACEs trauma assessment should be at a 0.
exactly, right? So
Yeah.
that's my thought in terms of like a cushy
Yeah.
life.
Okay.
So yeah, how do I have her still want to
I mean, yeah, I think like you were talking about earlier, like we're the source of like their knowingness about how the world works.
mm-hmm,
And so I think a lot of it is on me to lead by an example of like pushing my edge of growth, like
mm-hmm,
never becoming complacent and lethargic and lazy, and still like pushing to the next thing that's like kind of a stretchy thing that requires some faith and
mm-hmm.
requires some trust. And I mean, even like the world's richest man, like Elon Musk has figured out how to constantly live at the edge. He's just
Yeah.
all in all the freaking time, right? So there's things that I can do in that area that show that I'm like not settling here.
Yeah.
And then there's also, I think, a sense of like, uh, like kind of like being like a married white Christian man is now
Mhm.
like discriminated against. It's like
Yeah.
I feel like she might get discriminated against by being like 0 on the trauma scale. Or
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah, and she probably will. I mean, people
Yeah.
don't people have a chip on their shoulder, and then they kind of like don't like somebody who started off with a little bit more privilege. But I mean, that's our job as
Yeah, I mean, I think
fathers.
being in
Yeah,
service and being humble about like
100%.
taking your shoes off, being okay to like be, yeah, I intend on doing a ton of stuff in the developing world and a ton
Mm-hmm.
of stuff in our city that's like the
100%.
opposite of these kinds of neighborhoods we'll be like living in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's just about continuously like interfacing with people that come from a super different background, I think is probably a big part of the answer for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer, and then a good like just the last part that you mentioned, just like having her around people of different backgrounds and keeping them humble. I guess this is the way to keep it simple. Yeah, man, I'm. It'll be interesting, but well, let's see how it goes.
You seem really confident in your relationship with your wife. How did you get there?
That's a great question. I think both of us have had a lot of like, not, I guess, relationship experience and stuff that like we don't like. And so I feel very comfortable with like me sharing like, hey, like where I'm at, our communication style, like, it's not like we're not regimented and like we don't sit down and have like I've heard other people have like every Monday we have our sit down meeting and like to make sure we're on the same page and we know
You're
where
not
we're
tracking
going.
marriage KPI?
Yeah, no. And, well, actually, we have a spreadsheet. I have her fill out a Google form every Friday.
You have agendas on Google Docs?
Yeah, no, I think so. There's that. I think we're very expressive with like how we feel about each other, which I think is very important in like any relationship. Is just like I always know where I stand with her, and even if I piss her off or something, like we're quick to remedy or like make sure that we're again just on the same page. And I think that's where like the confidence comes from, is just like we both know where we're going together, and we're pretty quick to, I don't want to say course correct because I don't think that's the right word, but we're pretty quick to like get back on the same page if we're not in alignment for whatever reason. So I think that's where the confidence comes from. And I love her, so that
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, I mean, I've been married 5 years as of November 30th, so we're like
Nice.
just a few weeks away from our
Mhm.
5th year reunion or anniversary.
Yeah.
And I would also agree, like it's a choice to remain like this. You don't just assume it stays like this. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you had all these like really high experiences and memories, and you made these vows, but still, like it's a daily vow, a weekly vow, and
Mhm.
it's like it's two becoming one. And my
Mhm.
wife likes to use this like rope analogy of like having a third part of the rope, which is Jesus in the
Mhm.
relationship. It like we now have something that we're held accountable to,
Exactly.
so you can't like waver anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible calls us to love our wives like Jesus like loved the church,
Mhm.
basically, right? And so what that means is like Jesus died for the church, basically, or for all of our sins. So it's like, are you willing to like have that commitment? I think so. Or I know so. And so there's that, and then also I think the big thing that messes people up in relationships is they don't communicate when things like slightly bother them, and then
Yeah.
things kind of like get swept under the rug, right? And then, same thing with business. If you don't fix the small stuff like right away, by the end of the quarter, you're like, where'd all the money go? Right. And the same thing with our relationship. If you don't address small things, and again, it can be in a loving and compassionate way, but if you're like just not, if you know, 3 months, a year, 2 years down the road, you're like, I don't know who this person is anymore because you weren't constantly just trying to come back together. So, like you said, it's a conscious, consistent effort, day in, day in and day out. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying, again, like I'm saying, we don't, we obviously have disagreements at certain points or whatever, but they're few and far between, and very rarely are they, never have they been like a big blowout fight or anything like that, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just because it would never get to that point.
How has coming a believer shaped your
Ooh,
relationships?
um, so it's great. Like I grew up Catholic. I was like a youth leader in high school, but I think as a lot of people do, I kind of fell further away from the church, like mid-20s. I get basically from like college on. And um, I think when we met, both of us were like flirting with the idea of coming back to church. And so she had her own convictions and she was already thinking about it while I was kind of thinking about it. And, you know, you can say it's the Holy Spirit or whatever. And then one day I was like, you know, should we get back to church? And she was like, yeah, it's so funny. Like I was literally just thinking about her, wanting to go. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and, and so I think because, and this is just, we both were already like thinking about it. And then we both ended up going. It didn't feel like one person was like trying to drag the other, so to speak. Like, and then I think that's why the Bible says, you know, be equally yoked, because if we both commit to having these specific principles and these specific things like guide our life, like you said, it's a lot easier. It's like when you have a third person or a third thing that in your relationship that you're both like working towards, it makes it so much easier
Yeah.
to like have a sandbox, right? It's
Right.
your sandbox, or like your rules of the game. And then if as long as you're operating within these things, we both know that we're in alignment. It's easier to like have something like that. So I think that's kind of how it's helped shape our relationship. Is just we know we're both moving in the same direction because we have a roadmap basically. So
And what do you guys do together? Are you guys building anything together? Are you thinking about doing a
um
business or nonprofit or anything like
well
that?
so my thing has always been like, it's funny that you mentioned like Latino entrepreneurs, because that's kind of like eventually I'd like to start some sort of fund to like fund Latino businesses. Like that's kind of like
Cool.
what my like long-term kind of passion project is. And based on this conversation, I'm like, shoot, it shouldn't be long-term. I should start doing something now.
Let's
Um,
go, baby.
yeah. So I love that. Between the two of us, so she owns a salon out here. So she owns a salon and she also still does hair. And once the baby comes, she's definitely going to take like some time off, obviously, and that's a blessing that she has a job, and I do too. She we're talking about her just staying home, at least for the first like 2 3 years. That's what I'd like. And then you know I'm getting back into like we obviously I have the flip business with Ryan, but I'm starting to do my own deals again. So maybe she'll jump in there at some point. We'll see. So from on the business and entrepreneurship side, we don't have anything quite yet that's like on the plan. And not to say that we wouldn't, because clearly she's entrepreneurial and she's crushing it,
Interesting.
doing
You
her
guys are
thing.
both entrepreneurial, but you're not teaming up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's one like I yeah, I don't know. I think with the two of us, like we work really well as a relationship. I'm not sure if I want to if we would work well together on the business side potentially.
Yeah.
Because she's very very strong-willed and I love that about her. But we just have to figure it out. But as of right now, no plans. But what about you guys? Sounds like you guys have something on. Like you asked that question because what do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people like expect that I have that going on, but I'm similar like you.
Yeah.
Like my wife like manages a coffee shop. It's a
Hmm.
missionary nonprofit
That's
for
awesome.
connected to a church. She runs the whole thing and she works about 15 hours a week on it. She loves mentoring these teenager barista girls
Hmm.
and sharing the gospel with people in the coffee shop. And it's, yeah, like building a sense of community. And I think that's basically what she wants, is like run some sort of community center. Coffee shop is probably her favorite way of doing it. It's like a place people come in and go, and it's familiar faces and this hugging and sense of connection. And yeah, so like I guess my bigger vision is like where I want to start heading is I want to build out a community. People call it like Tanner Town, but basically like make my own town.
That's so cool. And so like elaborate on what that means. Like,
Yeah, it would be like places for people to live as like neighbors that like actually like know each other like well, and like maybe do team up on things. I could see it being like an incubator for nonprofits that our city needs. I can see it being like a place for different gurus, facilitators, coordinators, workshop people to come in and speak and guide us through different things. I would like a worship center where people are playing music and worshiping our Creator. I'd like a little town market center thing, and having like local artisan things. I want like a local farm, and we're eating like healthy food from the earth, and just like all the good things. And like I was explaining before, it'd be like hundreds of different visions coming to life through this. I want one of my roles to be creating like the education system for like preschool all the way through like, like whatever, like
cool.
it never really ends.
Yeah,
Like
you're right.
I'm still getting educated. I'm 33, right?
Me too.
So it's like, what are things that we can do to create like more self-awareness, more emotional intelligence, leadership skills, being like an interdisciplinary thinker, doing immersive, like hands-on education, doing exchanges where people are going abroad at young ages and stuff. And then I'd like it to be a network that people can like take our model and do it in every continent. And so as I go to Brazil or whatever, like the education is still like continuing for the kid, and it's in person still. I think that would be a really good way to have a really local community and a global network. And so within that, my wife would find some spot that she'd probably want to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my vision for like what I want to actually do in a bigger way in my life.
Yeah. And so it starts with like these 300-person parties that you're having now.
Yeah.
And then, or I guess I don't want to call it a party, but
I don't know what we call them. We call them like gatherings.
Yeah. And so how do you feel like you get to like the next stage? Like
I've been working on a lot of that this summer. Like I've been telling you before, my philosophy about like life is life is now. Like urgency to me is something that like I now just recently have like come to really like grasp as like very important concept in life. Like I think, before I was living in some sort of time scarcity around like I would create too much overwhelm, too many projects, not enough time, not enough money. Well, nowadays we have like a solid group of like 30 volunteers that are all leaders in our community that are all stepping up in different ways, and things are now happening. There's like, we had a documentary movie night about an eco village. Someone else suggested the clip or the YouTube to watch. Someone donated food to the thing because they liked the topic we're studying. I put out some content on my social media, and like 20 people showed up. And it was at my house, and we watched on our big projector in the basement, and we had snacks and a discussion, and then people slept over, and the next morning was a pool party.
Wow.
And it was like, that stuff can happen, right?
Yeah.
I like Friendsgiving would be a thing, right? And like book clubs. My friend David, who also works for me, he was my friend before, and now he's our transactions manager. He has a book club, and so it looks like showing up to his thing and letting people know it works. This is another reason I do podcasting, is it creates a personal brand. And so as you get that, like people are saying, I want to do something inside of what he's talking about. And now that's starting to happen because people know I'm like super open to using my property, my platforms for this kind of stuff. So we'll see what it evolves to. I was like, we've been really, really good on the warm weather months. And then the winter stuff,
it's tough.
It's harder.
Yeah.
So I want to get more of a sense of virtual community going, like a WhatsApp type of group. And actually people use it, not just like transactional conversations, but people are like sending in videos where they're being vulnerable about something. People are like chiming in, and I want people to get lunches together. I like intentional dinners, like with like a question card, like breaking bread together.
Can you give me some examples of the questions you're asking at these dinners, if you can remember?
Ooh. One recent one was like, what are the top 5% of things going right in your life, and what are the 5% of things that you wish were different in your life?
Wow.
Something like that. It's
Yeah.
pretty open for
Mhm.
interpretation, but you just the point is to get to know people, like the real them, not
Mhm.
like the them behind a 60-second reel or them behind a yeah, everything's great.
Yeah.
Like, well, let's add some nuance to it. Like, what is
Mhm.
actually happening? What was another one? It was like tell the story of your um an experience where you were uh in another culture and you learned something profound about yourself.
Mm.
Something like that would be a good one.
Yeah.
All these would also be good podcast questions.
Yeah, these
right?
are great. Yeah.
I actually, yeah, we have a Google Doc and we have these strips and we like cut them out and laminate
Mhm.
them and put them in a cup and you can just draw them.
That's cool. That's a fun
Yeah.
podcast idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have that just at our
Mhm.
dinner table, and I
Mhm.
have a little set in my backpack when I travel, and yeah,
Mhm.
just gather around food. My wife's from Thailand, so like food culture is like 10x what
Oh
it is
yeah,
in
I bet.
America. So she likes Thai food, maybe some sort of tropical smoothie thing, and people show up for that already, and then you create intentional conversation, like a 3-hour dinner with
Mhm.
like 10 people. If you can throw in some live music,
Or even better.
like around a bonfire,
Mhm.
like that's a pretty connected evening for people.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, something that's like starved in like Western culture. Like people aren't doing
Yeah.
that. So I think that's awesome. So Tanner, if you had to leave the earth tomorrow, what's one thing you want people to know?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, take care of my pug.
That's fair. That's reasonable. That'll do it. What else?
You want a real answer?
I do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it's not anything too crazy. It's like the whole like end of the book of Matthew, like
Mhm.
the go and make disciples. Like
Mhm.
let people know that Jesus is God's son. He came here to this earth. He died for our sins. He gives us everlasting life with that promise, and we're to lay down our lives and live for that purpose. And one of the things he wants us to do is share that message with
Mhm.
others so they can find peace and freedom and joy and eternity. And I think before I die, I have an urgency to let people know that that's an offer that's available to
Mhm.
them to choose. And I pray that they choose that, and I'll see them in heaven.
That's your even better answer.
Yeah.
But someone take care of the pug too.
And take care of my pug. She likes to have a little bit of human food with her dog food because she's a little bit of a picky eater. Sometimes she'll just paw out like the carrots or the peas
That's so
or the
funny.
chicken and like not eat the dog food. So you got to really mix it together, kind of put a little bit more at the bottom.
Yeah. All right. Noted. Make sure to say that. That's so funny. Cool, man. Well, dude, I appreciate this. This was good.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, it's good talking to you. I do want to share that one thing we're starting to do is like a
Mhm.
mix of all these things. We're creating on the platform school, which you guys are
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
We have a thing called Seller Finance Freedom Academy. It's our first go at like teaching people basically how to go from like 0 to 10 houses and establish like financial independence from like the system, like
Mhm.
get $5,000 a month of cash flow and choose to quit your job if you want to and do that in 12 to 18 months, like
Wow.
on the side, like 10
Okay.
hours a week or whatever. That's kind of our offer, and we have a community of
What are
like
you charging for it?
right now it's free. We have
love-
150 people in it.
Nice.
The vision is that we'll have probably 2 tiers. One would be like elite mastermind type of
Mhm.
thing. And then another one would be like maybe like I don't know 179 a month or something. But
Okay.
we're just focusing on adding a bunch of value to the free group, and then we'll monetize it once
Once you-
there's a lot there.
Yeah.
I did want to talk to you about like what that would look like, but since you guys are really good at that,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's something to look at too. That's kind of interesting because it's a way of like getting freedom, getting in connection with other entrepreneurial type of
Mhm.
people within that community. It's like spending time with kind of my brain and my mindset on like business building. There's obviously going to be like life wisdom and stuff passed around that group. And then these are people that you can do life with. So you
Yeah.
can meet up in person, and we'll probably host stuff, once I'm back in the US at my house. We are going to probably do a trip to Thailand in February.
Oh, sick.
So my vision is we get 30 people and we'll get on an island and we'll go
Yeah.
scuba diving and
That's
yeah.
the thing I love about just this business and also like building a personal brand or whatever, like there's so many communities and people can find like who like meshes well with them,
Yeah.
which I think is so cool. Because I mean, there's a lot of places that they can go learn like creative finance, right? Like you can go to Pace Morby's group, obviously slightly different or whatever. But like once you find somebody and you find like your people, the community aspect I think is so huge. And I think that's what's been really what's made us successful, like with the wealth cons and everything else, was just like we indirectly were just throwing events and building this like community of people who all kind of are slightly similar in like a lot of regards. And yeah, I think like if there's one theme for the entire conversation that we've had, it's just been community. Like
Yeah.
that's how everything flows and everything happens. If you want to go make profits, go join or build a community. If you want to have like a healthy relationships and also like have people who you trust be around your kids, you got to have community, right? Like it's just like the core is community.
If you want to deepen your faith, get back into church.
Exactly, and be in a community. So it all stems back to that. So and that's huge. And yeah, man, we can definitely talk about the nuts and bolts of like funnels and stuff if you want to. But
yeah, it's good for me to learn a little bit about it. But yeah, like my interest is definitely around that community, like finding people that want to grow together. Yeah, I like somewhere along the line, I think it was Chris Crone really influenced me on this one. It's like, if you know like how to reach financial freedom and you know it's not like this magical, impossible formula,
yep,
like you should be offering that to people. Like, don't keep it from people.
Yeah.
And I think I figured it out, and it doesn't require getting a PhD or it doesn't require inventing some app that has a 1 in a million chance of taking off. You don't need to be the next Google or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. It's not that crazy. Like it can be very grounded in like you and a business partner or you and an assistant and you finding a good contractor and finding a good wholesaler, and you can basically, you don't have to take drastic measures like I did to quit your job, move across the world, and go into massive credit card debt.
Yeah.
Like I can eliminate all those things.
Are you going to help them find lenders and stuff too?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to have like affiliate relationships within that, maybe create a fund. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be my big, like the biggest recommendation. And the thing that's like helped us out the most this year is just providing the services and the other things that they're going to need to build their business, right? So now, we sell them leads, we give them a CRM, we give them the community, we have our lenders list, and then of course, we take a cut of all the relationships and stuff. So it's just how can you make your community more sticky too? Because like once they use you for all the services, and once they're like, and obviously they're great things and they're getting value from them, they're never going to leave. On top of the fact that you have the community. Because like back in the day, or for us at least, like we would always, with education, once you learn the skill, like there's no point in staying unless you have good community or you have things that I need to continue to run my business. So, and that's been huge for our profits. And then like reoccurring revenue too, has been like our big focus for us, where it's just like, we just have subscriptions coming in every month now. And, we don't have to worry about finding the next deal or finding the next student, because it's all just.
You've gotten your reoccurring revenue to be what, like greater than your fixed operating expenses?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'll say on the podcast, we do about 160K in reoccurring revenue every month, just from like subscriptions, not including like the coaching that we sell, the like like the extra stuff or whatever, just in like subscription revenue. We do about 100K a month, 160K a month just from that, which is great. And then, that covers all of our fixed expenses. So everything else is just gravy at that point. And then it grows every month. So it's nice.
Yeah, Phil's first looking at how to get to, I think his goal is 40K of recurring revenue via the school subscription.
Yeah.
And that would be like, the people that like these school games or whatever. He's like taking a course on all that.
Yeah.
And then it'd be finding like other layers of it. Like
yeah, for us, the most successful funnel that's worked, we do a $3 trial for 7 days. Then at 7 days, it's $97 a month. Right as of today, our cost to acquire a customer is $200. So basically, we need to have them stay on for 2 months in order for us to make money. Or, and this is what we've been doing, we tack on the softwares and everything else, and then we also have upsells, so they get they can buy for $100 like one of our workshop recordings and stuff like that. Because the biggest challenge that everybody's running into that's doing the school stuff is if you're running paid ads. If you're doing organic, you can do it. But if you're doing paid ads, your cost to acquire a customer is going to be too big than like the actual acquisition, right? So you have to keep them around for longer, or you add more things for them to buy on the upfront. So for example, we took like our like average profit now on the front end is like $297 because people at the end of the 3-day trial, they're buying the software, they're buying like 2 softwares, and then they're buying the membership. So it comes out to $297. So now we've offset our customer acquisition cost. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. So that's like the big thing, like that a lot of people don't think about with these low ticket communities is if you're going to do it, you should think about it as a lead magnet, not a profit thing. Like if you're profitable from it, amazing, but like have them pay, offset your ad spend so you can get leads for free, and then you upsell them into like your mastermind or
what do you find like is the right things to upsell into? Like what do you think that is like not crazy intensive bandwidth, but also major value?
So our product stack right now, it's again $297 for all the softwares. The next level up is Rookie. We've switched around kind of how we price things. So it's $1,000 a month. But included in that, you get the softwares. We're going to give you 100 inbound leads too. So we run Facebook ads nationwide. So they get what's called like our leftover leads. So these are 30-day-old leads but they're inbound. So they've expressed interest. They've like filled out the form at some point over 30 days ago. And so we're seeing people get deals from that. It's better than cold calling because with cold call, and I mean, you mentioned you shut down your direct to seller stuff because it's tough. Like
cold calling and texting got way harder than it was 4 years ago.
I mean, it's illegal. Like we've been hit with lawsuits and stuff like that before. Just and so it's way harder and it's just tougher to do. So instead of us preaching that, and every other company's still preaching, hey, you got to go cold call and go do this thing if you have no money. So we're going to give you inbound leads that you can call every month. For $1,000 a month. And then you also get the coaching, calls, contracts, all the softwares. Then after that, it is $2,500 a month for All Star. And then at the end of the year, you're still paying, what is it? I don't even know the math, but you're paying a good amount. So it's still the 25 grand that we used to sell that you bought into, but now we just break it up into monthly. And then we have $4 grand for our Lead Kitchen and All Star combo. So Lead Kitchen's like we run Facebook ads. Like for example, in Kansas City, you pay us $4 grand plus your ad spend, and then we're going to give you direct inbound leads in your market. So that's kind of the journey. So long-winded answer, but basically from the $297, they can either just buy leads individually. So if they want to go buy packs of 50 leads, they can get fresh leads that have been generated between 0 to 14 days for $1,000, or they can buy the leftover ones for 500 in addition. So they can do that at $297, or they can just get into Rookie for $1,000 a month. So that's the natural progression that we see. So
what's the difference between Rookie and All-Star?
They don't get access to the mastermind. So we do quarterly masterminds that, you're a part of. So you can come here to the office every quarter and we go 2 days in depth. Gary's here. We just do workshops, and then we share. And then so everybody kind of they get into a group and hey, these issues I'm struggling with, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also an extra call that Ryan does every week for All-Star that he doesn't do for everybody else. And then they get access to all the wealth cons and all the other stuff. So it's just, there's more community aspect.
So there's more community gathering in person is a big aspect.
Exactly.
And going deeper on a full on workshop.
Exactly. And that's what you need when you're higher level. Right when you're just starting out, you just need to learn the skills. You just need to learn, how do I find buyers? How do I flip a house? Whatever. Then you get to a point where you're okay, I have actual problems. I have issues with employees. I have stuff that, you know what I mean? Things that require more community.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what All-Star is. So that's kind of the biggest
difference. Do you think that it should develop in that sequence, or do you start with the elite thing first?
Well, I think it depends on your situation. So I started as a student too back in 2020. So I learned how to wholesale houses. And I'm glad we didn't have a Rookie program back then. We just had All-Star. So I dropped, 20 grand at the time. And I'm glad because I was able to get around higher level people right from the jump. So I always say, if you're motivated and you can swing it financially, you should jump into the like highest level thing you can, because it's going to shift your thinking right away.
Yeah.
And you're going to be around like the highest level people. You're like, okay, like I get it. And I can build my business backwards from like how they're doing it. And I can just skip all the smaller stuff.
That's been my journey. Yeah.
Exactly. So I would recommend that if you can swing it financially. Obviously, some people can't. And so like,
so as the creator of this community, do you think we ought to create that higher ticket thing first and then that medium tier second?
100%. So this is what I always tell people, like whoever want to start a coaching community or whatever, always start ultra high ticket first for a couple reasons. Number one, the people that you help are going to get the most value, because if they're paying whatever your high ticket price is, they're probably going to get some one-on-one help. They're probably going to have some like mastermind. So the chances of their success is way higher than it would if you're just doing a low ticket community, right? It just is what it is.
And that's where we're getting demand too. Someone will say like, hey, I've already got a successful flipping business. I now have an operator ready to start this business model. Can you guys fly out and teach us these things and like consult us regularly? And I'm just like, wow, this is about to be big for me. But it would also be awesome too.
Yeah, and there's a price for that, right? Yeah. Like to fly out, there's that's a big time commitment on your end. Right?
It's off the table the next 90 days.
Exactly. So you know, you're gonna have to deal with Zoom for now. But yeah, I would always start ultra high ticket. And for reason number one, like I just mentioned, you're gonna get more wins, more testimonials. The other aspect is there's only so many people in your warm market that will pay for something early on, right? So you might as well, from a profit perspective, start with a high ticket thing. And otherwise, if you started with a medium or a lower ticket thing, they spend the money on that, then they might not spend the money on the high ticket thing anymore.
So you're saying people that have been following us more closely and see our value, and like they would go spend the 20 grand instead of the
instead of the $2,000 or the $5,000. And then once they spend the 2 or the 5, they're like, okay, well, I already spent it. Like, I want to see how this goes first before I go drop 25 grand, right?
What do you think about training up people in your own market, like in your own backyard?
I think it's great. Some of our best students and coaches now. So like these guys, the Badgley brothers, they were competitors in our market, and like yeah, join our thing. We're going to coach you up. Same thing on the lead kitchen side. We run ads in Vegas to buy houses for us, and then we also run ads in Vegas for our clients. So yeah, I
what have been the fruits of like giving so much value away to your competition?
I mean, now they're coaches for us. Now they they sing our praises basically, right? And so it's become more of an asset. And back to your point about collaboration, right? Like I think, and I know Ryan shares the same view, like there's enough for everybody. And so what, like, and it's turned into more partnerships too. Like we've sold deals to them, they've sold deals to us when previously they might not have been willing to like collaborate because they're like, oh, that's competition. But because now we're all part of the same network, like, yeah.
And then operationally as the captain, how do you like draw any boundaries around how many new set of operations you have to go create?
There's a couple, like you're talking about like from competition perspective.
No, just like delivering on all these products. Like it's a whole bunch of new things to build out and make. Right?
It is.
You have to keep track of your 30-day leads and put them in something that can be consumable to them.
Again, it comes back to good people. So we have a really smart team that handles like kind of like marketing and operations, and smarter than me. So and they go handle it, and I like same kind of similar to what you were talking about before. But like, hey, I let them go build it. Right. And then figure it out. And then I come in to give them like the 10% of tweaks that need to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
I do it right.
Exactly. So it's just, and then Ryan comes in to give it another 10% of tweaks once we have the thing. But then one thing that we've learned too is like sometimes Ryan just shouldn't be involved in the actual process part.
Yeah.
Because like he's going to come in and blow up things that don't necessarily need to be blown up. And again, his value is big picture, like figure all this stuff out, like let the nitty gritty stuff go to either me or the team. Right. So, there's that. And were you gonna say something?
No. Does he roll out his ideas to you then? And then you figure out how to make it happen? Or is he going like skip level down to like?
Typically what happens is, when there's an idea, him, me, and maybe like one other person are going to like brainstorm and kind of like think about it. And like, this usually happens via text. Like we're just going back and forth firing and like, let's make it this way, this way, this way, right?
Really? Like right when he's on fire with it, you're in a texting like
Yeah, I mean,
brainstorm.
and who knows if he's been brainstorming this for like a week before even talking to me about it. But
You don't know how much discernment the idea has yet.
yeah, and typically there's not much, right? Or like for example, this lead pack idea, where like including leads in our offer, right? I came to him with a problem. I was like, hey, look, like we're number one, we're generating a lot of leads. Our product, our lead kitchen product, which is like our premium thing, where we will run ads for you in a market, right? We have a lot of interest, but people can't afford it. It's like it's $4,000 plus your ad spend. So usually it's like 10 to 15 grand a month that somebody has to have willing to dedicate to marketing. So that eliminates a lot of our audience. So I was like, hey, this is the problem. Like, what should we do? And then we just start kind of going back and forth. Like, okay, well, we could sell the lead. We could sell like the leads to our students. What does that look like? And then so we go back and forth probably for like a day or two. Then we sit down with the team, say, hey, this is an idea. What do you guys think? And then we have like a few different iterations. And then we think we have it. And then Ryan thinks about it for a day and then comes back and blows it up again. And is like, hey, actually, I think I want to do it this way. Like, okay. So then we kind of flesh it out. So it starts. So again, long-winded answer, but it starts off with the two of us kind of going back and forth to the team. Then there's some more fleshing out. And then eventually then we can go to like the how of it. First, it's like, what's the best product we can roll out?
But like right now, like our team is doing our real estate business. So like, what is the team? Like, how do you start to pull people out of your real estate business into this?
And this is a very important thing. And it's a good question. We don't pull people out of the core thing that they're doing.
Yeah. I don't want to do that.
No, we do not.
That's how we are building our wealth right now.
And very few like, there are 3 people really in the company that focus on multiple businesses. Me, Ryan, and then Ben, who is like our marketing manager. And then actually, Aaron too, he's our ad buyer. So he buys ads for multiple different companies. But the thing is with both him and Ben, their processes are very similar, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, we're just doing a different marketing campaign, right? So to your point, we don't pull out any like key players from their core business. We like either we have to hire or I pick up the slack for a little bit until we can hire somebody to run that specific business. Because you're right, like I would never pull my salespeople off of one company to go try to sell another thing. Like we have to build out a new team.
So I've found in like the 3 months we've started this stuff is like we're full of ideas and inspiration, and we get networking connections and like really big time leads, and then the execution part, especially with me going on paternity leave, it's just like I don't know what kind of answer to give around that. Like we don't have someone to hire. I don't really want to take on overhead for that yet.
Yeah.
What do you suggest in that kind of phase of starting these things?
And so you're talking about for the education piece?
Yeah.
For what I know you don't want to hire somebody, but you probably should, or you're going to have to dedicate somebody to it. And then I probably would like just give them upside. Like I would for now, like, hey, I'm not going to pay you a salary, but I'll give you a percentage of revenue with the expectation that it will change like in the future. Once we have a built out business, I'm not going to be able to pay you, 20% of whatever, right? It'll change, but that's what I would do.
Yeah,
and then the other aspect of it too would be you sound like you already have people that are interested in your high ticket thing. I would sell a couple high ticket things that don't require any. I know time's a limited resource for you, but the high ticket stuff that won't require anything besides your time, right? So as long as you can figure out an offer that makes sense, where I'll do a 6-hour session on Zoom or something with you and to like help you build out, and then you're going to meet once a month with my team or whatever, right? Something that doesn't require.
And then you offer your real estate team a little bit for them to tap into, like
Well, so like
because I don't know how to manage contractors as well as our project managers,
so
right?
and that's a great point. So for example, Ryan's one-on-one, it's $100,000, right? Part of the one-on-one offer is you do get access to the team. So typically what happens is they spend 6 hours with Ryan, like brainstorming, planning, blowing up the business, building it back together, right? And then after that, they have access to like they can book a call with me once a month. They can book a call with Justin or whoever they need to help them build the thing. So like you mentioned, I think that's a good idea where it's like, yeah, like I don't like, if you ask Ryan like what our team does for like Mario, he has no idea.
I'm sure.
Like
I feel the same way.
he'll give you a high level idea of what he thinks is happening, but yeah. So we'll just let you sit with our sales team or like one of our salesperson, and he can talk about acquisitions, or I'll hop on and talk about whatever. So usually, you know, you'd be surprised. Like sometimes they just want to talk to you. Same thing like this. Sometimes they just want to talk to Ryan. But whenever there's a technical question or something, he'll either loop me in or whoever is the expert in that thing. And so that's fine. And I think that's scalable. And then you get a couple of these high level clients, one or two, and then now you have revenue to fund actually building this thing out to like where it needs to be. So that would be my first two.
And you stay on some sort of retainer as a consultant for their business? Like what happens after those first 3 months or 6 months?
Well, yeah. And so, for example, a lot of our one-on-one clients, like they either they buy services from us or they got what they needed and they move on. And that's the issue sometimes with education. Like I said, it's like once you learn the thing, unless you like have another level that you want to get to, or you have another problem that we need to solve, then yeah, we'll stick around. But for you, I don't think, I mean, if you want to stay on as a retainer, sometimes the thing that I've learned too with education is you want everyone to, like, this is just the nature of it, right? Like there comes a point where you don't need me anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
release them.
Yeah. So it's like, cool.
The doors for someone new.
Yeah. Yeah. Go move on and you're good. So what I'd probably do
it would also feel really rewarding too for people to resell.
Exactly. Like you graduated, dude. Like you're good. I'll see you later. So that's probably like, I would make it a 6-month program, and then you can stay on monthly if you feel like you need it. That way,
and then in 6 months you got the business set up and it's moving. You got the vision.
Yeah.
I'm here for when you need me, but really you don't need me a lot.
Exactly. And like it's twofold too, because your time's valuable and you don't want to commit to somebody for, I would say, more than 6 months. Even 6 months is a long time. And the other part of it too is like, yeah, like I don't want to keep taking your money if I don't need it, or if you don't need it. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't feel good about it if I was just getting a retainer. And
it's back to like giving more value than you're getting.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just easier, right? You know, there's a finite amount of time.
So you guys made a lot of monetary things in your products around what you guys seem to be really special and good at, which is like that lead generation side, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
was that because you guys were good at that, or is that because that's like where most of the money's made in this business?
A lot of the businesses like that we've started have started off as things that we used or that we're really good at, right? But I'll use the lead example first. So, quick backstory: we ran TV commercials for 4 years to buy houses.
Yeah.
So here in Las Vegas, I want to buy your house.
The Uber driver knew you guys from those.
Yeah, did he? I love that. Yeah, I mean, are you serious?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
He's like, oh, I know Ryan Pineda. He used to be on TV, and he's like, I Ubered him 2.5 years ago somewhere.
That's so funny. Yeah, Ryan's a local celebrity even before the social media.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, and they ran forever. Like you would see him at the gym, you would see him wherever. But during that time, we would get like a 3 to 4x return on our spend, and that's just how that's how we ran it. Coming up at the beginning of this year, we were seeing like the return kind of start to dwindle. And then we also were like, hey, we have spent millions of dollars for our coaching business on social media ads. And Ryan has generated a ton of views online, like over 1 billion views online. Like, why don't we just see if we could run the TV commercial on Facebook? And so that's how it started for us. We were just doing it for ourselves. And then we saw a ton of success. It was going well. And we were like, well, a couple problems. We have a lot of leads, and like this could be a business now. And then we look at the upside. We're like, okay. And this is the lens that we look at everything with through now, because we started a lot of dumb businesses too. It's like, is it too good of a thing to pass up? And because it's going to require our time, our resources, so is the upside there? Yeah, because it's massively scalable. Our overhead is nothing. It's literally, we have one ad buyer and one account manager, and that's it for the 30 something clients that we service.
So they're
at our
figuring
highest
out how
level.
to make the ad hit the algorithm and all that. You don't have to figure out all that.
No, I mean, what's already done, right?
Yeah.
So we run, it's like a franchise almost. We run the same ads that we run in their market. So the only thing that we do is, so like, we'll pick Kansas City and then we'll target a 25-mile radius, and the same targeting that we use, the same algorithm that we've used, all that stuff. You get the same landing page. It's just like duplicated out for you. And then we let it rip. And it's been super successful for us, and it's just massively scalable. So yeah,
That's big time.
yeah, so it's cool and it's sellable. And that's like the big thing that we're thinking about in the next 3 years is like
Selling a business, yeah.
Yeah, like that gets I mean, it just helps everyone kind of fulfill their purpose.
That business has a bigger multiplier than a house flipping one would.
Yeah, well, a house flipping one doesn't have much because, again, no reoccurring revenue. And then the education doesn't have one because Key Man Risk or Ryan's Face, like, you can't really sell that unless he stays on as a consultant or something. But yeah, so that's kind of, yeah, that's our thing that we're focused on. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing all that with me.
Yeah, no worries, man. Sweet. We've been cruising.
Yeah, it was a long one.
But sweet. Any last words?
No, I mean, I appreciate you for doing this and for sharing transparently how everything works, and yeah, getting to see you and your values, and
Yeah,
I feel a kinship with you on many levels.
absolutely.
It's
You as
fun.
well, man. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Peace. Dude, that was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Oh, I did. Yeah, it was fun.